about the 3D from his point of view and about the company in general. And there is an anecdote that I want to share with everybody today, and also with Yoav, you're probably not aware of, but Nano is one of eToro top 50 holding company by our investors. So it's really, really impressive when we have so many securities by the thousands. So I would like to start, usually when I do the webinar, I gave the full description about the guest that we have. And when I did the research about the company, so I read some article in Analyst when Yoav joined the Nano Dimension. And the article actually said that we don't know much about Yoav, aside that he's a very super good CEO. So I thought the best thing will be is to ask Yoav, as sort of get to know your CEO for our viewers, the one that invest in Nano Dimension and the one they're not, from the person himself. So first, Yoav, I'm really happy to have you here, and the first question is yours.
So you want to answer about how come I'm perceived as a good CEO, or you want me to tell you about myself?
I want you to tell me about yourself, and then I guess everybody will know why you're a good CEO.
Okay, well, I'll start from the other side. A good CEO is not measured by what he says about himself. Let's start about that. A good CEO is measured by what his partners, investors, employees, suppliers, and customers say about him. And therefore, I'm not going to talk about myself, except the fact that I've been a CEO in American public companies since 1993. I've done 3 SPACs. In the early days of the SPACs, all of them were successful. One of them is now 20 years later still active, operative, paying dividends, successful. We privatized it later, and I'm the co-chairman of that one, and 2 others were sold. Beforehand, I was in the Israeli Air Force. I spent many, many years as a fighter pilot, deputy squadron commander, but more importantly, I was a weapons system avionics officer, so I was exposed to very, very sophisticated multidisciplinary technologies and very early in the game, starting the age of 20 and on. And I was versatile in wireless communications, video compression, man-machine interface, machine learning, microwave technology, radar technologies, etc. Beforehand, I had a degree in mathematics and computer science. I had a degree in robotics and advanced automation. And other than that, I've been running lately security company, which I've sold to FLIR Systems in the United States, headquarters in New Jersey. And Nano Dimension, I do diligence based on investors that ask me to look at this company, which was small and public in end of 2019. I did my due diligence as a potential investor, decided to invest potentially subject to certain things happening in the company, and then they asked me to come become a CEO and do the things that I requested to be done. That's how I got here.
So this is really interesting. Yoav is really an odd CEO, and as we will see when we go forward with the question, but not talking about himself, it's not something new for Yoav. He's really have many successes. Among others, he did almost 20 M&A in his previous roles, and 2 companies from 8 million to 300 million in revenue, and so I just wanted to mention that because you're not going to talk about it. I have a general question, just for the viewers to understand from perspective of culture. Every CEO has a culture, running the business through the idea of, motivating employees, how to take the company from one stage to the second stage. And I'd really be happy if you can share that with us from your background, from your record, historical positions, but also how you implement that in Nano Dimension.
Well, when you run a business and your management philosophy, before you get into the philosophy, you have to assume there's a certain guidelines that everybody understands. And the guidelines is you run a business, which means you have 5 constituencies that you have to serve. And the first one is the shareholders expect return on investment, which is invest their money and get eventual return. It's not necessarily immediate and it may take time. And then there's 4 other constituencies, which is the customers, the employees, the suppliers, and the environment and the communities within which your company is operating. And you have to serve all of them. You can't just serve one. You can't just think about your investors without thinking about your employees, and you can't think about your employees without thinking about your customers, suppliers. So having said that, if this is the assumption going into a business, my philosophy in running a business and managing people is based on 2 adages, if you want, phrases. One is, if you work with me, you have to report, debrief, and be loyal to the company. If you don't report precisely, on time, and if you don't debrief what you do and get better, and if you don't stay loyal to the company, even when times are tough, don't work with me. That's the first thing. And the second thing I tell all my people, and it's to do with how you work together, is the following, and it's a quote. Bad news are good news. Good news are no news, and no news are bad news. So bad news, if you know them, are good news because you can fix them. Good news are no news because there's nothing you need to do. And no news are bad news because you probably don't know certain things that are happening. So that's how I start. And then the rest depends on the business, depends on the markets, depends on the products, and obviously.
Interesting. It's obviously showed that, you really look all the way to how to really push the company forward and how not to stand at the same place. And especially in those type of companies like Nano Dimension, where it's a growth, even aggressive growth stage. So I guess that's really important. So let's just talk a little bit about the Nano Dimension in general. I mean, you guys have in your website, and I quote, disrupting and reshaping manufacturing with intelligent 3D technology. Now, just to explain, I was visiting the company last week with the CFO, which was amazing, spending an hour and being patient with me and explaining me and showing me so many things. And it's the first time I saw something like 3D printing, that it's not a plastic or something like that. And I really was humbled by that. And I will be very happy if you can elaborate on the market, on your 3D as a Nano Dimension company, and how you're really disrupting this market.
Okay. So first of all, let's make it very, very clear by a short description of what is 3D printing. 3D printing are machines that are using certain materials, we call them inks, in order to print 3-dimensional entities. This can be inks from plastic inks that print 3D printing entities that are made of plastics, and nowadays they're doing for metal, etc., etc. 3D printing is more than 20 years old industry that went through its ups and downs and cycles, overall going up. Nano Dimension is using a 3D printing technology, but it's not in the 3D printing per se. Nano Dimension is an electronic industry. We print 3-dimensional electronic devices that are built by layers. So you can call them printed circuit boards, except they are not boards, because they can be in the shapes of cubes, in the shapes of L's, in the shapes of H, and those are 3-dimensional electronic circuits with layers. And we print them while injecting the 2 materials at once, dielectric and conductive material. This is very unique. Nobody in the world can inject two materials. One of them is melting at 200 degrees Celsius. One of them is melting at more than 1,000 degrees Celsius. And they're both injected at the same time, and an input of digital file comes as an output of electronic circuit, the way you see circuits inside electronic devices. This is unique. This is aimed at the electronic industry. This is going to disrupt the electronic industry in the following manner. Think about the following, guys. You're using PCs today, personal computers. Go back 30 years, there were main computers that were centrally located. And eventually came the PC, eventually came the network, eventually came the cloud. And now the PC is an edge device for the brain and the information that is hovering around the world in the cloud. Now, look, take this analog or metaphor and use it in a manufacturing environment. We are building a network which will be eventually a smart, artificially intelligent network of machines. The machines are going to be just the edge devices. The brains are going to be inside the machine as machine learning brain, and on the cloud or in a centrally located environment where there'll be the distribution machines, the distribution brain, and there will be a network of fabrication machines that the inventory is held digitally, centrally, and is being sent to edge devices like the PCs, and each edge device is printing as electronic circuit as needed, when needed, in the place that it's needed.
It's amazing. And it's important to point out, and first I really recommend every person to look at the recent investor relation PowerPoint, which really puts so much detail and transparent on this. And it's really amazing because when I visit the company, I saw like, UBS card that it's literally printed from scratch to the end, and you just take it from the printer, plug it in, and that's it. It's working. And this is like the simple part of Nano Dimension. So it's pretty amazing. One of the slides in the investor presentation, Yoav, is the 5 stages.
Yes.
And I think it's really important because, and especially that's one of the main questions I wanted to ask you here today, because I mean, not many people understand that a growing company is not something that, next quarter earning, it's going to be, wow, amazing, or it's going to be, wow, it's bad, because there are stages. And if you don't follow the stages, no matter, maybe now when you raise capital, you can fast forward, but again, it's still going to be stages. It's still going to be something that you need to be patient about. So what I thought is maybe if you can simplify the 5 stages to the people to understand.
We built this 5-stage investment thesis, if you wish, because I realized that it's a different investment theory, and I wanted to build the company with a group of investors, obviously public investors, we're a public company, that really early in the game understand what we're going, what is our time factors, and how long and in which way we're going to change this industry along the lines I described before. And it was very clear to me when I came in a year ago that this company, with the right financing, is going to totally change the electronic industry, but it's not going to be overnight. It's at least a 3 years projected cycle until we get to the point that we'll start to populate across the industry with this network of production machines with the 3D printers. As such, it'll be totally wrong to create an illusion in the public market that when they invest in us, they can see in the next quarter some kind of a contract with some important customers, and we do have blue chip customers across the world, 4 continents, 40 customers. But we are not looking with these customers to buy 3 more machines next quarter as a sign that we are successful. We have a long-term plan of building the whole network of machines. Our customers are working with us and giving us the input because they know what they would like to expect to see from us. And we build a 5-stage in the development that we expect to cross, which is to do with how we develop the materials that we are selling, which is the inks, the materials that are building the circuits, and in parallel, how we develop the machines. And as we cross those stages over the last 2-3 years, we are seeing this as signs of success. I gave the example of an investment in biotechnology company, right, where people invest in biotech. They don't expect the biotechnology company to show results in the first 5-6 years of its life, right, results as much as revenue. Sometimes they do, but mostly they go to stages when the FDA approved stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, luckily for us, the stages we build, we don't need an approval of FDA. It's basically stages that we set ourselves into gates that we have to cross as we go up, and we will cross them. We're already on the way to be there. And those stages are signs that we are moving to the right direction. And the investment, like in a biotech, has a huge upside and a huge inflection point. The difference with the biotech is the downside in our case is protected. We have already 50 customers, 40, 50 customers. We have machines that are working. If we are late or if we don't have enough financing, we could sell the company or we can
go slower. Right now, we're not going to sell the company because we have enough financing. Right.
We're really fortunate because of the support we have from our shareholders and we had over the last year. So it's really the risk on the downside unrelated to bio totally, where if they don't reach the right molecule, doesn't matter. If the FDA in the third stage didn't let them go,
it's a dead company. I agree.
In our case, with the valuation we are today, guys, we'll be 3-4 times this valuation in 4 or 5, latest 5 years, probably earlier than 4. But don't expect in the next 2 quarters for me to announce results or to announce some M&A or to announce something just for the share to go up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do M&A faster than what I think is right because then I'll pay too much and you wouldn't be happy. I'm not going to sign a contract earlier before I finish negotiating it just because somebody wants to see something in the next month.
Right.
No. Whoever is going to be with us on a long term will get much better than the results serious investors when they invest in the markets. Guys, you should know that investors invest, they get 200 points above the Dow Jones, 150 points above the Dow Jones. That's 10% a year. We will be able to give you much more than 10% a year, but it's not going to be on a quarter-by-quarter basis.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And usually, guys, I mean, you probably obviously know that that's not unique in a growth company. And Nano Dimension is a growth company. And I think your analogy for biotech is really interesting because, you know, you in the hands of the FDA and FDA say no and boom, you're dead. And here, you build the stages. And one of the important things, as you said, you already have customer, but you have customer that actually have a good feedback. So it's a customer that you know that it's working. So as you probably said. Now on the same slide, by the way, there is a hint about if you go from stage 1 to 5, you maybe do exit or sell the company. Is that off the table now because of the capital rise?
So first of all, you know the story about the guy that says, I'm not selling.
Yeah,
I'm not
never say no.
No, he says, I'm not selling. How much are you paying? So selling the company, first of all, we are very well financed now. When I wrote this presentation, it was half a year ago. Mm-hmm. And in half a year, we changed our position from having $50 million in cash to having $1.5 billion. So obviously, selling the company now when we have the ability to maximize value to our shareholder is not necessarily a plan. But I'm a shareholder. I invest my own money. I'm totally focused, other than working with other constituencies, suppliers, customers, employees, to have return. And selling the company is a way to get return. So if you calculate when you have an offer to sell, that the return comparing to the time it will take you to get to that share price is worth selling because the time value, the time factor has a value.
Right.
You sell. I'm not here in order to have work for me personally for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It may be 10 years, it may be more, but I'm here in order to build an organization which will be valuable. Value can be by share price and can be by somebody who buys you and continues to do and fulfill your vision. So it's an option.
Right.
It seems right now that we can actually do it ourselves, but
you can take your time and decide much better. Can you talk a little bit about the addressable market for Nano Dimension? I mean, obviously, when I went through the earning call and the presentation, it seems like there are in the stages few, approaching to more markets. Can you give us the vision within the 5 stages, how the market look like, how you get to this market, what do you need to get to that market?
Yeah. The printed circuit board markets is about $70 billion a year market of printed circuit boards. I assume people know what is a printed circuit board. If you will break down your mouse here, or if you break down this keyboard, or if you break down your remote control, they have printed circuit boards with certain chips on it. Obviously, those are very simple printed circuit boards. Every electronic equipment in the world, anything, is built based on printed circuit boards. $70 billion market, just the fabrication of the printed circuit board. If you include all the components that you put in them, it's $250 billion market. So if you speak about what we do, which is very sophisticated printed circuit boards printed in 3-dimensional, it's probably you should take about 15% of the $70 billion. This is the high-end printed circuit board. That's $15 billion market. Obviously, we aim at that market. We're selling machines to that market. That market right now is like the old printing market. When you saw movies about how they used to print books or they used to print newspapers with huge machines with 20 stages, and actually in electronic devices 150 stages, that's how the industry works today. Very high-tech equipment, but very retarded production methodology.
There is a slide also in the show, like a big factory and then one machine.
And then what did the Israeli company Cytex did to the printing industry, or what did desktop publishing did to the printing? Suddenly, you could design the document in PDF on your tabletop, and you send it to your Xerox or HP printer, and you print it. You don't have to go to a printing house. You don't have to go to all these processes. They go to a printing house. That's what we offer, our machine, to the PCB industry. Instead of printing a PCB board through stages and in very ecologically non-friendly environment with the chemicals, with the galvanization, with stages of going step by step, and then you have to do inspection between stages, and then if it goes all the way to the end and it doesn't work right, you wasted it. We print, and that is the target market that we're talking about. Now you ask yourself, okay, so that's the type of technology as target market, but where is this technology used, the high end?
Who's using it?
The following. First of all, defense. Secondly, aerospace. Thirdly, aviation. Next, high-end medical. Next, high-end automotives. Electrical automotives. Autonomous. What is electrical autonomous vehicle, guys?
It's all about boards.
It's all about electronics. It's a box, 4 wheels, electrical engine, everything else is electronics and very sophisticated. Of course, Research Institute Academy. So if you want to use an acronym for that, or if you want to use a phrase for that, is every place there's high mix, low volume. High mix of designs, low volume per design, but huge amount of designs. So you can almost do it by a PCB. You design, you print. You design, you print. We're not competing where you have 5 million or 20 million pieces of PCB, where it's just the same PCB, like in a remote control of the TV. That's not
your business, But you're going more as you pointed out in your. It's a high end, and he mentioned that I think in the last earning call it's about like 500 capacity, right?
Right now when we
not now, I mean.
No, it's much more than that. The machines per year that we estimate that the existing market we're going after, and the market we're going after right now, is because of the corona. We figure out that the large players are having issues with capital expenses. In Europe, they have issues if they don't even go to the office. We have machines that we sold last year and are not installed yet because we're not allowed to come to install them.
Do it.
But universities and research institutes have budget that are released a bit earlier. So those markets, which is research institute and universities, is about 400 machines a year, we estimate. Research market, and the biggest markets are once you move from machines, which we do today, that are doing prototyping, into production machines, which is
so-called mass production.
Mass production, but still on a high mix, low volume.
Right.
That makes the market size for machines in thousands per year, and we are very confident that based on our business plan, we're going to get there. And by then, the multi-billion dollars valuation or multi-$100 million of revenue will come to fruition.
And is that's part of the 5 stages? I mean, when you get to stage 5, this is where you can be a mass market?
The stage 4 is machines for medium-sized production, and stage 5 is machine for full production.
Right.
And we believe that the inflection point is actually early stage 4.
Right. Interesting. Let's talk about the effect of COVID. I mean, yesterday I just read an article about all this chip shortage in the world, chip shortage, especially for the auto industry. But we see many other shortages for many other, even if it's a plastic or things like that. And actually yesterday we had this article talking about a Korean company that manufactured to the OEM those type of chips or stuff like that, which is almost like 70% of the chips manufactured in the US. And maybe this is sort of transition to educate the clients, the corporates to, bring things to home.
You're hitting the nail on the head. And what you just said, there's a name for it already in the United States. We give it names for everything. It's called reshoring production, counter to offshore. It's called now reshore. And what happens during the COVID is really interesting, and especially, by the way, in electronic industry, and specifically in printed circuit boards and chips, which is electronic devices. Those industries migrated to the east between 2001 and 2020. The printed circuit industry, which I mentioned, 70 billion, 85% of it, 85% is in China, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan. 50% is left in the States. More than 50, 60, 70% of this industry was in the United States. It's over. I visited companies that had 60 companies in the basin of Chicago Airport. They have 6 companies there by now. Everything migrated. The big OEMs over this time got used to send all the production to the east. Now, what happened during the corona? 2 things. A, the corona happened and initially stalled production in the east because it started from China.
Yep.
Second, in the same time, there was a trade war that President Trump initiated. Yep. So the trade war caused the prices to go up because of tariffs.
Yep.
And again, production was slowed down because you need to renegotiate prices with the Chinese or the Koreans or whatever. So these 2 things created during this 2020 a very serious shortage, which we are actually seeing accelerated even now. And the big players, the big OEMs, like the people, like anything from Apple to on the defense side, the Lockheeds and the Raytheon or whatever. Mind you, the defense can't send things to the east because of other issues.
The IP and things like that.
But go to Philips or go to other civilian organizations and realize that they have a breakdown in the supply chain. By now, they were used to work without buffers of inventory. Everything used to come straight from the east. Prices went down. But once there's a breakdown, everything goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And they can't afford it. They must reshore part of the production, even if it costs a little bit more, or at least part of it can be on the ground, both in Europe and the United States, so they can buffer crises like this. That's what we see today. We're hoping that us being here in this time is a perfect trend for us, because not that only that our machine gives the ability to keep the IP safe on the ground here without sending IP to the east. Not only that we can produce low quantities or medium-sized quantities until the large quantities will come from the Far East. We also are able to do it ecologically friendly because our machine works like an HP or any other printer. Xerox. We have cartridges. We don't have dirt. We don't have chemicals that are sunk to the ground. We don't have an environment where we have to filterize everything, clean up everything. It's a clean industry, and it fits the ability to move industry back to the land because it's also ecologically friendly. So we're very well positioned in that.
Do you see any interest now because of this shortage? I mean, did those companies reached out to you? I mean, from perspective of interest, just to learn, to see what you can help them because of this shortage?
Yeah, we see interest. We started in our headquarters in Florida, activity called the AME, Additive Manufacturing Electronic Academy, where we teach people about what we can do and others as well. So people are starting to realize that this type of technologies are coming in and are able to give them a good answer. So the early adopters are the people who are interested to buy the machines right now, but it's a trend that's just starting. I believe it's at least 5 years trend. It's the same like the offshoring was a 20 years trend. It started in 2001 in the debt crisis. And if you look at the numbers in China 20 years ago, there were nothing.
Right.
Not to speak about quality that was down and their ability to manufacture sophisticated electronic products was not there. Today, I was just looking for an acquisition of a company in Europe that had a subsidiary in China, manufacturing in China. And I interviewed the head of the Chinese operation, which is a Westerner that was on the ground in Europe because he couldn't go back to China. Okay. And he told me, Yoav, the quality demands that the Chinese companies are demanding from now are higher than the automotive industry in the West.
Wow.
The type of demand they have on us on ecology and maintaining the environment is as high in the West. The cost of management of Chinese managers is very high, like in the West. So the Chinese moved ahead in the last 20 years. And if we don't wake up in the West and we leave everything there, it's going to end up with more crises like we had in 2020. So I think people are waking up to that.
I think it's very important to point out from my point of view as an analyst of companies is that one of the reasons that companies are using those outside third parties is because, working capital, right? I mean, that's the way for them to manage, not to hold too much inventory. And I think the brilliant about your product is that you still have the added value of working capital because they will not produce if they need the product. So just for people that looking from this perspective.
It's the old adage, just in time. If you can maintain digital inventory, you print as you need.
I agree.
It's like when you do today, the book industry. They print book on demand almost. Right.
I agree.
When you are able to buy books through Amazon or through any other sites, at many sites you buy books nowadays, the manufacturers of the book, the people who write the books, they already wrote it. But now, which is the book is the design. They wrote it. That definitely is digital.
Yeah.
Now, the people who manufacture the book, the written book, can manufacture it based on the amount of orders they get.
The minute they order, you just...
And then they print it.
Amazing.
That's the same idea.
I agree. Let's talk about M&A. I mean, it was exciting 12 months for you guys at Nano Dimension, for many other companies. And, when you came to the company, it was, 70 cents a share. It went to a peak of about $18. And you got a big hug from Wall Street and many investors. And wisely, from my point of view, you hugged him back very strongly and raised capital, which... today, everybody's seeing as a very, very strong and smart move. Can you talk with us about your M&A strategy? I mean, to understand what do you look for?
Okay, let me preempt it by saying, when I'm speaking over the last few months with investors, when I raised money, I spoke with only institutional investors. So all the money I raised was institutionally, and I met with 150 different institutions probably over the 11 months. And they understood what I was talking about when I speak about M&A, but they're not the only holders by now, because there was trading, so a lot of our shares are held by other people, which are less familiar with business issues that institutional investors are familiar, like M&A. And that's something that, and I will tell you what's our M&A tactic or strategy, but I have to preempt it by saying M&A is not something you do with a plan and an order. It's a process. And the process of an M&A, by definition, there's two sides, at least, sometimes more, the seller and the buyer. And people who expect M&A to happen just because I'm saying what I'm doing and what I'm playing and what process I'm on, it will happen. But people think that I can make M&A happen overnight just because I decide to make it happen because the share is down or up. No. If you do that, you end up buying companies that are either the wrong companies at the right price or the right companies at the wrong price or both. You end up usually paying too much because you're under pressure. Not to speak about the fact that we are by now perceived as somebody who has money. So people, when we are involved, are trying to ask us for more money just because we have it. It ain't going to happen. We know exactly what we intend to buy. And here comes the general strategy, which I spoke about it before. We have about three types of companies we are looking at. One is companies that are in the PCB industry that eventually will use our machines, and we intend to purchase one or two of them based on European and American that are serving the high-end customers that will end up serving as well. We are doing ourselves now. We have a service company internally called Nano Services, which service companies. We're going to buy a company that manufacture PCB in the older way, which eventually will populate it with our machine.
So basically, you will enjoy this part from the cash flow that this company, the legacy, and then
and then we'll replace and slowly improve our business. And we'll be in touch with the customers all the time, so we'll get also feedback from the customers what kind of PCBs they expect our machines to make.
And it's sort of a customer acquisition. Because at day one, you get
acquisition of, you're right, distribution channels.
Distribution channels.
I got the doors to the customer. Yes, we're not acquiring the customer, we're acquiring
the relationship
with the customer. Right. That's etap A. Type B, we're looking at companies that have technologies that are advanced on the direction of additive manufacturing electronics and that we do not have. We may need to develop, but because of our strong cash position and financing, well-financed, we may shorten the cycle of going through the stages by buying technologies, integrating it into our machines. So we're looking at this type of technologies across the industries. There's few companies that we are interested in, and we know we need them, because if we will take upon ourselves to develop it in-house, it may be longer, and obviously there's a risk. So this is the second type of companies.
So that's shortcutting the R&D, basically.
Shortcutting the time to market.
Time to market,
and reducing R&D internally. We're going to use those companies.
And the risk.
And those companies usually have R&D teams, which we're interested in them.
So
it's all about people. High-tech business, like many other businesses, but more than that, is about people.
I got you.
You know, when you buy a shop, which is they say it's location. When I buy a technology company, I say people, and everything. But people.
Nice.
Because you look at the technology, but at the end, if it's not already an old technology, if it's all new, you need the people in order to take it forward. So it's people. That's the second kind of companies. The third kind of companies are companies that already have products, not like our machines, but other products that are going to the same customers we're aiming. This can be products for analytics, products for measurements, product that are using other technologies for other stages in the development of and the build-up of an electronic device that are not our machine, but are selling to the same people who are building electronic devices.
Interesting.
And that will increase our assortment of equipment that we sell beyond the machines that we develop in-house. That's the third type of companies.
The library of what you can offer to the customer. So it's really good. Can you share with us from perspective of deciding on M&A? I mean, what do you look at? You look at return on investment, you look at synergies, you look at price to sell, because I mean, you know, we're in a market that it seems like many things priced a lot, and the price to sell in the technology world replace the price to earning. And I'm just wondering personally, and hopefully also the viewers, how you look at it from perspective when you come and you meet a company and you decide, okay, this is the model I want to build, aside from, okay, it's good for us from technology, but how you decide about the price, how you decide about whether, you know, what's your expectation in year 1, year 2, year 3?
So, you know, I never, we're not an investment company. So the question fits really well for an investment company or a fund. Okay. You say, okay, I'm buying a company. Yeah. I'm going to, how much, or a PE fund or a venture fund. Yeah. You say, I'm buying this company. I'm paying certain multiple on something, multiple on sales, or on revenue, or multiple on EBITDA, or multiple on profit. And now the company is going to grow, certain things will improve, what will be my return, and what will be the value when I'll have to do an exit. That's not our case, because we are only buying companies that are potentially integrating into our business and have synergy with our business. So when we calculate how much we are allowed or can afford to pay or should pay, I take the company on a theoretical basis. I do the exercise of merging it with our business theoretically, projecting forward what we'll do together, what will it bring to us, how much added value to us, as much as revenue or profit this technology or this company will add. And based on that, if I pay a certain amount, what will be the return on investment over time, and the increased value in our company, in Nano, that will filter up to the shareholders that this investment will bring. And then I say, is it worth it or is it too much? Now, what I described here, which sounds very analytical, it is analytical based, but there's a lot of art in it, and a lot of intuition, and a lot of vision of when you merge technologies, you have to visualize what will this technology do and how much more you still have to invest in it, which is an additional investment. So it's not a straightforward, I would buy at 10 times EBITDA or I would buy at 5 times revenue. Certain things for me are worth more than
the term CEO that, you know, is sort of build the company from scratch and grow with the company. If we may, we take Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, Bill Gates from Microsoft. And there are the second type of CEO, which I call them as the professional CEO, turnaround professional CEO that know many businesses, you know, that they know how to move the needle in the company, sometimes company growing to a certain stage and then stop. And then they need a person to know how to do it through them, if it's an M&A or if it's all kinds of things, taking it globally and things like that. I take you as a CEO of number 2, right? I mean, of course, you're a visionary, but, you know, taking the company from here to there. Can you share with us, how is it to move from one, you know, totally different industry to a new industry, learn the industry, and build a process of pushing the company right away? And the reason I'm asking that is that when you joined the company, I think in like the first month, you already got a decision about, you know, steps in China and stuff like that. It was like, yeah, you were an investor in the beginning, but it's like, you know, it's something I would expect from a person that built the company, not a person that, you know, just came for the company.
Okay, first of all, let's reduce the complexity that's being perceived by your question.
Yeah.
Yes, I do move, and I've been in many industries, and I've been in many technologies. But remember when I described myself, I come from a point that technology for me is a language.
Right.
And it's not software that's a language. Software, hardware, software plus hardware leads nowhere. So you don't deal with just the software and the hardware.
Right.
General technology, in case of nano, it's physics and chemistry, and I've been in video technology and others. I don't spread myself over every company.
Okay.
I don't turn around banks. I don't run retail organizations, which are now a chain of
food chain or pharmacies. Okay.
I don't run real estate. I don't build a real estate WeWorks or anything else.
Yeah.
I don't get into constructions. I don't get even into certain technology businesses like cyber or fintech, which are technology, but that's not my expertise. Even though I must tell you that if it was a large enough, interesting company in fintech or cyber, I would probably feel comfortable getting in.
It, yeah. But it's still in your circle.
It's still in my circle. But really, if you look in the last 20 years, all the companies I was involved
was
electronics, software and hardware, certain security, but the security was really video, which is also, if you look back to my Air Force days, I dealt with all these technologies from the age of 18 forward. So at the end, when you look at how can I be such a journalist, and yes, I am a journalist, but I'm journalist within reason. If somebody told me, you want to turn around now a chain of 200 and whatever stores of shoes. Right. I would say, what the shoe is. It will take me 2 years to understand the variables. Right. And in a turnaround, by the way, is not always a company that goes under and you fix it. Sometimes a company that's growing very fast. Yeah, as I said, right. So when you go to a turnaround, the key thing is you have to be able to make decisions within 3, 4, 5 months. Exactly. So you have to learn very, very fast. And yeah, everybody can learn a lot of things, but you don't have the time to learn. So the industries I'm in are limited to the point that I feel comfortable. Right. I can learn fast. I can make decision in the right time. I agree. Let's talk a little bit about risks. The business revenue model for the legacy printing business, as we know it, Xerox and HP, was that at the end of the day, the hardware was a commodity, right? The printer, and the real recurring revenue were the ink, which I guess you guys into that as well. One of the things that happened to those businesses is the copycat of the ink. So people start buying the ink not from the OEM, they bought the replacement, which really, really affected those businesses. How you think about it, how you protect yourself from suffering the same thing? Okay, here the trap in understanding the analogy between what you said and what we're talking is the word ink. Yeah. When you speak about the inks and all what happened in inks, you're actually meaning ink per se. Yeah, per se. It's an ink that you print with. Ink that you print with exists for between 500 years since Gutenberg, but it's really before. In China, they used ink much before, and they printed things on the papyrus. They didn't print, they wrote. So ink in the world has been there for 2,000, if not 4,000 years. Right. And ink is a commodity, and modern ink for sure is a commodity, and therefore, and still there's certain inks and colors, of course, but pretty much a commodity. When we talk about an ink in our case, those are not inks, we just call them inks. Okay. We're talking about polymers, we're talking about metals, we're talking about sophisticated powders with solvents. It's very sophisticated, a lot of patents on that. It's much more complicated to copycat an ink. Give you an example. We're using, as a conductive ink, we're using silver. So you're saying, okay, silver, it's silver, it's silver. Yes, but no, because we're not actually using silver. We're using silver powders mixed with certain polymers and solvents, which we're manufacturing ourselves. And somebody else that manufactures silvers, and we try it, sends us this silver, and it doesn't fit because the silver has to work with the electric. The electric is completely different polymers mixed with ceramics, which has to work together in the same process with the metal silver, becomes much more complicated, very difficult to copycat. But I want to tell you something. As we grow and we manufacture our own inks and our own silver, and all, I intend to license out so other people will be able to compete with us on manufacturing inks. Because once you get to very large quantities, in any case, people don't like to buy the materials for one source.
I agree.
It's a really risk, especially when the machine is going into production.
Right.
As our machine is used for prototype and for proof of concept, so if the ink is late in arrival, so you wait another day or two. You can't do it in production. So once we go into production, we will license certain inks out, and we will make sure there's other people manufacturing inks. It'll still not prevent us from making money on the inks, but we are in the business of enabling the production or fabrication of printed circuit board, sophisticated high-performance devices. And inks is one component of that. It's an important component because the materials is not just what you print to see letters on a paper, it's the materials that actually end up with three-dimension entity.
Right.
So it's much more sophisticated than a traditional ink.
And I guess this one of the things that you continue investing of writing more patents and things like that, right? I mean, this is like the heart of that to keep your advantage.
I can tell you that out of dozens of people that we have in R&D, 40% of them are materials people, which is chemists and physicists. It's all about the materials.
Really interesting. If you need to define the main challenges that this industry suffers today, what would it be? I mean, to really take it to the level that, you know, the disruption, we know the disruption, we know where you're going, but what are the challenges you're facing, I don't know, in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Not just as a nano dimension, but, you know, maybe customer education or things like that.
So if let's define the industry. You're not talking about the electronic industry, but you're talking about the new additive manufacturing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So the main challenge of this industry is education of the very traditional market. I don't want to say like doctors, but electric engineers that are designing circuits. Whatever works, whatever is new, first of all, it doesn't work. In a way, justifiably so, because it's so complicated to make electronic devices and PCBs or PCB-based, and the process is so complicated, so whatever works. Now we're coming with something new. Something new, by definition, has a risk. So the main challenge is educating the market from one side, and from the other side, which behooves on us to develop the materials that are being used to make this, to fabricate these devices, to fit as close as possible to the existing materials which the market is used to. So once our materials are fitting industrial specs, commercial specs, and eventually mill specs, that's when the electronic designers will start to feel more and more comfortable using this new way or new type of electronic circuits. It happened in other industries as well, and especially in the medical industry, which is even more sensitive. Right. You're dealing with people, health, and people's lives, where when you come with a new technology, it takes the time to make the doctors realize that they're not going to be sued for using it. In our case, it's a bit better.
It's better.
People are not going to be sued. The issue is, will the product work and will they have longevity and life with no malfunctions? Right. So it's a bit easier, but that's the challenge.
Interesting. Now, can you talk about a little bit more technology on the part of the layer of the technology? I mean, I've seen it that you guys, I think, reach already, like 10 layers and maybe 50?
We can go up to 40 layers, 50 layers.
Can you explain that? Because I don't think people really understand. I saw this movie about a legacy factory, how they do the layers, and they take this board, and then come, and then do that, and then do that. And then you guys, print in it, and then...
Our printer prints in layers and in a 3 millimeters board. Think about a board the size of, let's say 2 inches on 2 inches, just
small one.
Yeah, small one. And let's say its thickness is, a quarter of an inch, 3 millimeters. Our machine will print these 3 millimeters in layers in about 4,000 layers. And each layer is a micron and a half. It's almost like the semiconductors industry. Semiconductors is it's even smaller because they're dealing with silicon. So as we print those layers, the machine digitally decides how many layers are conductive and how many layers are dielectric.
Right.
And they print accordingly. So we end up deciding that we want to print, let's say, a capacitor. And a capacitor we print, and it has within less than an eighth of an inch, 50 layers of conductive dielectric, conductive dielectric, conductive dielectric. And the layers are extremely important because that's what enables us to condense the electronics into small spaces. And then it's to do with heat, the dissipation of heat, and it's to do with connectivity, and it's to do with impedance and a lot of electrical characteristics that are a result of everything being in layers and in a small space.
And will it be right to say that this is sort of the type of your competitive advantage?
Well, to start with...
I didn't read about any other company that print in layers today. So.
Nobody else does printing layers like we print in a major way. I mean, there's 2 or 3 small companies that have a handheld device on the tabletop. Mm-hmm. They can do almost manually, like I'm describing, 2 layers, or maybe not even more than 2 to 3 layers. But that's not the point. The point is you have an automatic process that prints 4,000 layers. Nobody else is doing it, and it's a challenge, and it's a challenge to that this process become industrial, which means the layers have to be unified. Everything has to be accurate within certain tolerance. Mm-hmm. You can't just print something that will end up not being within the specs that it was designed for. So the challenge is, and beyond what I told you, educating the market, is technologically is to make the machine fit production, is that it's reliable, mm-hmm. its yield is high. I'll give you an example. When people start to manufacture LCDs, flat panel displays, they were very expensive. The reason is because the yield was 30%. From 100 displays that were manufactured, only 30% didn't have malfunctions. Mm-hmm. So it becomes very expensive. Now, the production and fabrication of printed circuit boards or of flat displays became better and better. And today, in LCD, the yield is above 90%. Right. So the price goes down. Correct. It's the same challenge in our case. Same here. Like the curve, at the end of the day, it's going to be much cheaper. Yeah.
So we don't have much time anymore, but I just want to point out, and you don't need to answer because you don't like to talk about yourself, but I really encourage people to read the recent transcript call, and you are sort of a CEO that I call as an unconventional CEO, because it was important for you to mention 2 things. First, to say that when you raise capital, you never raise the second time when it wasn't above the price you raised it the first time. And the second thing, and I really find it really nice and interesting, you pointed out that we didn't increase paychecks, we didn't give bonuses, aside from a couple of thousands of dollars to motivate people, but it was really important for you to show that you're here not to make a round, take money and go, but you're really here to build a business. And, not many people go, I wouldn't say against Wall Street, but go to Wall Street and say, listen, if you're not patient, don't invest with us. We're here for the long term. We have a long-term investor that believe in us. And the share price may be fluctuated up and down. And I guess we hopefully... so people will appreciate that, and I'm really happy to have you here, and I learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot as well, and I really want to thank you, Yoav, for spending the time here, especially we got the chance to see you face-to-face in Israel, so it was really good, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great opportunity. And everybody knows that at least I read all your emails, even if I don't answer, because I'm a public company, so I have to be careful. But I say what I say, I mean what I mean, and I do what I intend to do the best way I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so sorry. I don't know why. The video was frozen, and I was trying, but yeah. But as you said, like the audio is the most important thing we want to hear. So next time, like I might be using some other software. Somehow it was not working. But anyway, my friends, I will be also broadcasting second demo day for PLTR tomorrow. So if you're holding PLTR, so we know tomorrow they have a second demo day event. So I'll be broadcasting that. At the same time, if I find good stuff that would be useful for us, then I will also broadcast and also join my channel. I love to cover these stocks. I make videos, 2 to 3 videos every day, and love to make videos like on the stock that are about to explode. I'm more likely a technical trader. At the same time, I like the fundamentals. So anyway, my friends, thank you very much for staying with me and watching till the very end. Take care, my friends, and thanks everyone. Take care. Bye. Seems like the share price for NNDM is really doing good. I see few people are still here. So you see for last back-to-back few hours. So currently this is 11 o'clock. So the morning, you see the two big candles here at the very bottom, two big candles here. And we had an important resistance around 7.6. We came below yesterday. Now you see it's curling up. So all good sign. It seems like it's pointing up, and currently we are above that support. Let's see one more thing. At the same point, have we broken the falling wedge here? So we are about to break the falling wedge. This is what I want, the technical pattern. So you see, we were trying to cross the black line, but we were not able. But this morning, it seems like we are finally breaking. And you see the small green candle here. It means like we are breaking the falling wedge, which is a very, very good sign. Let me check if there is still people. Yeah, I see 16 people still here. 18. Okay. One more thing. Do you want me to cover, because as you were already here, do you want me to cover like different stock, their technical pattern and everything? Then I can talk. If you want, I can stay here. We can talk. We can go over the chart. We can go over NNDM chart, or if any other chart, you can type in the chat box and we can go over if you want. So let's see on a 5-minute candle how we are doing here. How we are doing here. We are doing really good. Like we went around 7.7, then came down with the market pull off, then 7.5. Seems like really good. We are doing good. We are going upward movement and we are about to break the falling wedge. So all bullish sign. I'm so happy. And with the new two hiring, we know that they had new president and new CFO. Sorry, new product man officer, right? Yeah. So all of them has huge experience for merger and acquisition, and it's not likely that they just came on board yesterday and they will just announce a merger right away. It will take time for them to complete the merger. So but it should be coming. It seems like NNDM is very much interested and they want to do some merger and acquisition. They have a lot of cash on hand, so why not? So news will come and the price is very juicy. The price is sitting at the bottom like 7.7 is a steal. Previously it went to $17, so why not? We can go at least $14-15, which will be doubling your money. So I think this is a very good opportunity for getting into NNDM. Yesterday I bought a lot of shares when we touched around 7.3. So hopefully my decision was not bad, and hopefully like we will go even higher. Okay, my friends, I'm gonna end the video for now. Take care and I'll see you again. Bye.